A political party always needs its core voting bloc. In fact, it's the core bloc that it always relies most on at elections. And there are numerous examples we could pick from. We could go all the way back to, of course, 2016 in the Trump-Hillary presidential election that year, of where Hillary never once went to what were called the Rust Belt cities. So, like Detroit, Michigan, Chicago, never even bothered to visit these places. But people like Michael Moore were ringing the alarm bell saying, hey, you don't understand. There are people who are always voted Democrat, never ever considered voting Republican before in their entire lives, but they are being entranced by, well, Trump's populist rhetoric. You go to the 2019 general election that we had on the doorstep. There were again people for the Labour Party, members, Labour members up here in the north saying, when we're going to the doorstep, we've got Labour members or people who voted Labour all their life telling us we cannot vote Labour or bring ourselves to vote Labour because we do not have any faith in Jeremy Corbyn would be a good prime minister. And we think that Boris Johnson would be a far better prime minister. And given what's happening at the moment, that's quite hilarious to think of. But again, back in 2019, as I said before, because he did not play the PR game, he allowed his enemies to play it for him, and they set him up perfectly. And again, I was a supporter of Jeremy Corbyn. Initially, I wasn't. Again, I have a very negative video of Corbyn when he first came in, but I changed my mind over him because he sort of proved it. I looked into him and what he was saying. I went beyond the news, but you have to do that. Admit that there is this level of news first that people look to, and if they are absorbing that first, then they're very hesitant to look any deeper than that. And again, it's core-based support. But over time now, we are seeing in two local by-elections, just being the Chesham and Amersham one and the North Shropshire one, we have seen the Conservatives have lost a lot of their base support. And this is causing a lot of worries in the Tory HQ. So let's go diving into this piece in The Guardian about this, because this will almost certainly set the stage for, again, the May general elections, but even potential next general election if the Conservatives are determined to keep Johnson for... I don't know. It's hard to really say, but that's shall we say, a deeper conversation for probably another video. So, as always, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. So, here we go. This comes from The Guardian with the title of "Senior Conservatives Fear Traditional Voters Will Desert Them After Partygate." Senior Tories have warned that traditional supporters are abandoning them after Boris Johnson's Partygate fine, as another MP broke cover to say that the Prime Minister should be removed over his conduct. Then you've seen this slowly happening over the past couple of days. Conservative MPs desperately trying to make their mind up. And Tuesday is going to be the big test, and Wednesday as well. We're going to have to see what happens then. But needless to say, if there is a vote of no confidence, as we've said before, you can get those letters in. We came close last time. We know that we were potentially just 2 letters away. That's how close we came last time. But if you do get those letters of no confidence, can they then win the vote of no confidence? That is the big question. And then, of course, it tumbles out into a whole series of questions with if Johnson loses that, because then we're into a leadership election and race, and all kind of stuff could happen then. But that is the big key thing. Can they actually win a vote of no confidence and get rid of Johnson? that is still the big, I think, political calculation that many Conservative MPs are still trying to make the decision of, can they do that? So Conservative MPs across the country said on Saturday that they believed many people who had backed the party before were now raising concerns, with Downing Street braced for further fixed penalty notices relating to parties in the coming days. Writing in The Observer, the former immigration minister, Caroline Nokes, said that she was sticking with her decision to submit a letter of no confidence in the Prime Minister. That makes her at least the latest MP to back a leadership contest since the lockdown breaches were issued to the Prime Minister and Rishi Sunak. She also highlighted correspondence suggesting that previous secure voters were expressing concerns. She wrote saying this: "There are those who say that these emails are only from, quote, the usual suspects. It is true to say that there have been a smattering from them, the political activists who sent an automated email at the drop of a hat. But they are very, very much in the minority. The bulk of emails I received last week are from people who are generally distressed at the family events that they could not or did not want to attend, and many people I know who have been long Conservative supporters. I have not withdrawn the letter of no confidence in Boris Johnson that I wrote months ago to the Sir Graham Bradley, the chair of the Tory backbench 1922 committee, because to do so would be letting down all those people who have spent the pandemic doing the right thing." Other Tory MPs, including serving ministers, said that they believe some sections of their voters were being annihilated. A number of them said that the party was trying so hard to hold on to the newer pro-Brexit voters that many of the traditional supporters were being put off. And we've expressed this before, that they are moving, that the Tory party is moving so far to the right that many of their centrist sort of centre right of the Tories, which traditionally was always their ground, have just gone, this isn't the party that we joined, which makes it such a good recruitment ground for the Lib Dems at the moment, which is such a good advantage for them. And I think one thing we are going to see is the Lib Dems take massive advantage of that. We've already had 2 by-elections for local council seats, and it has been the Lib Dems making and securing seats and even winning a council majority in these 2 by-elections. So others being annihilated, holding on to the pro-Brexit voters, that many traditional supporters were being put off by Partygate and, of course, by the government's plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. So even that's put them off. If you go to our newer working-class blue-collar voters, I'm not sure they're bothered, said one Northern Tory MP. But if you go to our traditional middle-class Tory voter, they're angry. That's how I would define it. I think they should have resigned. A minister said that we're going down the route that isolates the people in the middle. And I don't know whether there's enough votes on the right and in the core of the party to just get us through. I think it's an offensive and it's doing real brand damage. I'm just appalled. And we've said this before. The centrist in the UK is a real thing. You look every single time they do this, 25% on the right, 33, 35% come in as centrist, 25% on the left. You cannot win a majority if you just appeal to either the left or the right. You have to get some of those centrists in order to win. You need at least, I'd say, 10 to 12%. And if they are abandoning that, as many people are feeling abandoned by the centrists, and especially by the Tories, pushing further and more further right, then they cannot win. They are losing massive support. And it's going to be interesting to see how the local elections play out. One former minister said, there's a couple of what I call the barometer people, and they've come to me and said, look, we're still angry with him. We don't think he should resign at the moment because we've got the Ukraine crisis. I vehemently disagree, but he shouldn't lead us into the next election. These people who I know are Conservative supporters. The news comes, of course, as Tory MPs demanding further conditionings from Johnson when he meets them after Parliament returns this week, as he has pledged to give a further and fuller explanation of his early denial that parties had taken place. There were also likely to be demands this week of a vote on referring the Prime Minister to the Cross Parties Privilege Committee over whether he had misled MPs about the Downing Street lockdown parties. Again, going to be serious repercussions if that happens. Again, his position now is a true house of cards. So much stuff has just gone on, and just the excuse of saying, "Oh, we can't replace Johnson now." Well, again, we replaced the Prime Minister during World War II. I think we had 2 replacement Prime Ministers during World War I. France has just had going into and doing a massive general elections. Should we even have local elections in the next coming week? After all, we need continuity and certainty. Again, it doesn't make sense. Labour, again, has also called Johnson's involvement in the Partygate scandal indefensible after further allegations emerged about the Prime Minister's conduct. Johnson's official photographer is said to have captured photographs of the Prime Minister holding a beer at his birthday gathering back in June of 2020, and of course Sunak with a soft drink, the Sunday Times has reported. The Sunday Mirror had said that Number 10 had refused to answer questions about the birthday gathering even after submitting a Freedom of Information request because of national security reasons. Labour's deputy leader, Angela Rayner, said that while the British public was making huge sacrifices, Boris Johnson had been breaking the law. He's deliberately misled the British people at every turn. The Prime Minister has demeaned his own office, and the British people deserve better. Some MPs critical of Johnson believe that they have only a few months to decide whether he's the right person to lead them into the next general election. Again, he is not the right person. If I was a Tory, like if I was a Tory, I would be screaming from the rooftops, get rid of Johnson, sack him, press the eject button. You need to get rid of him sooner rather than later. And one person said, as a party, we need to make a decision about Boris by summer recess, said an MP. If we haven't done it by then, Boris will lead us into the next general election. The Labour leader, Keir Starmer, again called on Tory MPs to remove Johnson, saying he is unfit for office and every day he remains in Downing Street degrades his office further, he said. The cabinet ministers and the Tory MPs must realise that this is not going to change, and every time they defend Boris Johnson, they embroil themselves in his own web of lies. Are they really prepared to stand by and do nothing as his behaviour brings their own party into disrepute? Only Conservative MPs have the power to bring this shameful saga to a close. If the Prime Minister is not going to resign, then they must take action when Parliament returns this week and send a clear message that honesty and integrity in public life still matters. A new opinion poll for The Observer suggests that the fines for Johnson and Sunak have made the more immediate impact on the Chancellor's popularity. And with such, they has now hit a record low. The proportion of voters approving of the Chancellor was at 24%, with 49% disapproving. And his net approval rating of -25 is his lowest ever. Johnson remains on a net approval rating of just -26. So get rid of him. Just get rid of him. You lose nothing. But of course, as we've said before, potential Tory civil war in the offing. And I think that's why they are maybe desperate to keep him. The Metropolitan Police are also coming under growing pressure to explain their approach to the timing and, again, their decision to fine senior politicians for the breaches of lockdown resignation. Yumashi Disani, I think that's how you say it, a Labour member of the Greater London Authority's Police and Crime Committee, said that he and other colleagues were concerned that the Met had chosen to reveal last week's politically explosive Partygate findings at a time when Parliament was not sitting. Desi, a former chief chair of the police committee, examines the works of, again, the mayor's office, policing and crime, in which he oversees the Met. And he said, the timing of the matters announced has raised more questions than answers. Desi also wants to know why the drip feed policy on the force's finding decision had been adopted by the Met, a strategy that he said had set no precedent. He said that the committee would be asking Sir Stephen House, the acting head of the Met until the new commissioner is appointed, why the force had decided to release the findings of the investigation in a piecemeal way. And again, those questions should also be answered as well about that. But of course, the more concerning ones, of course, is the fact that you've got Conservative MPs going, we are losing support in droves. And you've got traditional Tory voters saying, do not let him lead us into the next general election. I'd say you need to get rid of him now. And I've said before, if I was a Tory, I would be screaming from the rooftops every day saying, for God's sakes, get rid of Boris. You know, if let's say this had been a complete turnaround, and let's say this had been, you know, Keir Starmer or even Jeremy Corbyn, I'd be saying the same thing. He needs to go. You cannot have him stay. It is just too much damage to the party and brand. You know, he has to go. So, you know, the longer he stays, the worse it is for them. And, you know, long may he stay in a way, but also at the same time, if you keep him, then it damages people's faith in politics so much over this. And that can have even worse long-lasting damage to you know, politics in the country. So either if he stays or goes, you know, the damage is done either way to you know, people's faith in politics in this. So you know, he cannot win, or we cannot win either way in that case, whether he stays or he goes. And like I say, if he goes, excellent, fantastic. That opens up a huge can of worms, which we're going to end up covering in a lot of detail. But of course, if he stays, while that is, you know, good for especially opposition parties, because they can say, look, you've had this criminal in power. How can you ever trust, you know, Tory MPs to bring, or at least, you know, hold to account another potential Tory prime minister who might break the rules or commit crimes? How can you expect a Tory MP to hold a future prime minister who might do that to account? You know, it doesn't make sense. So again, it is sort of a win-win situation, I'll admit. But the big damage is that British, you know, politics. People lose faith in it, and that will be long-lasting. So, like I say, let me know what you think down below in the comments. And of course, as always, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can always buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.